Rock and roll, baby.
Boom. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Business Bros. I got the great opportunity to have a guest on the show who's helping people build coaching organizations. His company is called The Real System, and his name is Jorge Contreras. Jorge Contreras, welcome to the program, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you, my brother. I am doing great, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to just share my story here with the Business Bros podcast.
Sweet, man. Hey, before we get started, I got to remind our studio, or well, not studio audience, because they're not in here, but our audience, we're going to do a fundraising program for the new year. Last year, we did 365 pairs of shoes. By the end of next week, we're going to decide, James and I, what we're going to do this next coming year. We're thinking about blankets or hoodies or something, but still, it's a way for us to give back. So, ladies and gents, be on the lookout for that. James is our insurance guy with Pipeline Insurance, so make sure you guys reach out for all your insurance needs, whether it's homeowners, auto, commercial, business. Maybe you want to add insurance into your particular business. You got a mortgage company or a tax office, something like that. We'll do all the heavy lifting for you. You guys just got to hit us up to find out how to get that done. 619-884-0045 or james@csfirst.com. That's how you guys get started. All right, let's do this. George, you ready?
Let's do it, baby.
All right, so I want you to tell me, like, I'm gonna ask you for like a long-term goal. Like, if you can see yourself in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what is the thing that you want to accomplish during that time?
That's a great question. To build a really, really large personal brand where it would allow me to impact a lot of people in this whole world, to impact 1 billion lives. I look at the way Tony Robbins has such a large personal brand, and his influence has impacted millions and millions and millions of people's lives, both through personal development and through his feed, the whole world organization. So something very similar where I could build a really large personal brand and have a really big influence so that I could positively impact and elevate people's lives.
Nice. The ability to be of service to other people. That's kind of our core thing, is how can we be of service to more people? I know I've learned, and I think this was a Jim Rohn thing, I can have anything I want in life if I can help enough people get what they want in life, right? So that sounds like what you're building here.
Exactly. Same exact thing.
All right, so let me ask you a second question. Who are you today as George, as an individual, and who do you think you have to be in order to achieve that conquest, that goal that you want to achieve?
Great question. So if I'm hearing you correctly, who am I today and who do I need to become to accomplish that?
Yes, correct.
Well, one, continue to be, it's really the same thing. I don't believe that anything needs to change. Just continue to 10x really my energy and focus. Who I am now is just being an authentic, vulnerable, committed individual to this big vision and goal of mine. And as long as I continue to be that and just continue to be myself, ultimately, there's a lot of people out there that they try to be someone that they look up to, but you'll never win that battle because you'll never arrive. As long as you continue to be the most authentic and best version of yourself, then it's going to happen.
That's what's going to happen. All right. So tell me how'd you get into this industry? Like, what were you doing prior to becoming a coach?
That's such a good question. It used to be, so my first business, I dropped out of community college and quit my last job at Bank of America 12 years ago. And that's when I started my first business. I guess it was like 2007 or so. And I became a professional dance instructor. So I fell in love with the dance of bachata. And a few months after I learned what this sensual partner dance was, I started teaching it in my friend's backyard. And over the last decade, I've traveled to over 25 countries, teaching not just students, but teaching teachers who want to learn how to teach bachata. I still own 2 of the largest Latin dance festivals in the world. Here in LA, we do them every February, every August. I started the first bachata nightclub, a big dance company. And that's what I did for a really long time. And it was so awesome because during high school, and the 18 months that I went to community college, my goal in life was to travel, and dance became that vehicle where through that I was able to create 8 streams of income and start reinvesting my income into real estate. So then in 2012 I started buying real estate and slowly started transitioning out of dance and full-time into real estate. And my goal was to create financial freedom. I wanted to be able to have a family and be married and actually be there for my family, not just put bread on the table, but actually be there emotionally, physically, spiritually, for my family. And so the way I used to run that business is it needed me in order for it to produce income. So I always referred to it as my job and not my business, because it needed me to always be there, just like trading my hours for dollars. And the coaching opportunity came when a lot of people started asking me, hey, how do you invest in real estate? How do you do Airbnb? And I kept helping a lot of people. And so eventually I built an online coaching program where I teach people how to create time, financial, and location freedom with real estate investing using the real system. And as that became really successful, I opened up another chapter where I'm like, man, 12 years being a full-time entrepreneur, business owner, there's so much that I've learned about sales, marketing, client delivery, and whatnot. And when I came across this new innovative vehicle where you could coach people around the world, all virtual, online, I became fascinated with the idea of helping other entrepreneurs launch a coaching program where they could impact people's lives and deliver their message. And it's just like that saying, right? If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But if you teach a man how to teach other men how to fish, then you feed the whole world. And that's what I'm doing with that coaching.
Ooh, that's nice. I never heard that last part before. I like that part.
I just made it up. I think I did, but I just.
Well, I know, but I like that. That's cool. I might steal that, by the way. So thank you.
At the end of the day, you're just building other leaders. And if you're able to impact the people that are impacting people's lives, and man, that's how you create a legacy. That's how you elevate consciousness and create a world, transformation.
Well, let's bounce back a little bit. Let's go back to the George that was, leaving a consistent, regular paycheck and going into this sensual dance, which you probably used to date other women, do all kinds of fun stuff, but you morphed it into something bigger than that. Tell me, that George that was going to leave that job to go dance. Like, I want to know what was going in the mind of that George. Like how did you go to your dad and be like, hey dad, by the way, I'm going to quit my secure job. I'm gonna go dance. Like, how does one get the courage to do that?
That's a great question. I believe that there are really personality types, and I call them a promoter, controller, analytical, and supporter. And the promoter personality is someone that usually it's people that love to be on camera, like you and I, that love sharing the message, coaching other people. We're really good at sales. We could sell ice to an Eskimo, and we're risk takers. Usually it's a lot of entrepreneurs and investors that have that mindset. And usually people that the opposite of that is the analytical, right? It's like analysis paralysis. They want to know everything before they can do anything. They end up not doing anything at all. And so my personality type is I'm a promoter and I'm a risk taker. So I'm the type of person that will jump off a mountain and build an airplane on the way down. And it really started where my dad passed away when I was 12 years old. And when he passed,
I'm sorry about that.
It's thanks to him, I've grown so much as a person, because I realized that if I wanted to be successful, that it was up to me. Like, nobody taught me how to shave. Nobody taught me how to be a man, because nobody was here. And so it was one of those things where, like Tony Robbins says, if you want to take over the island, you have to burn the boats. And in my life, at a young age of 12, the boats were burned for me. And it was either going to be succeed or just give up and become a victim to your story of, oh, I was abandoned, my dad passed away. You either become a victim to it, or you take responsibility and use it as a tool and as a stepping stone to change my life, and then relate to other people that have had similar experiences, and how could they change their life. And I got my first job at the age of, so let me go back. So my dad passed away, and then my mom was, she would cook, clean, like normal Latina housewife, never really worked, didn't really know how to create income, since my dad always did that. And so I started living with this other lady that was a good friend of my mom. And she said, hey, as long as you keep going to school, she said, I will feed you, clothe you, and put a roof over your head. And then when I turned 16, she said, hey, I've taken care of you. Now you got to look after yourself. So at 16, I got my first job. And every job from 16 to 20 was commission based. And what I learned in my sales and commission experience is, hey, the more I hustle, the more I work my butt off, the more income I will make. And that just became a way of life. I just conditioned myself. If I work harder, if I create, bigger results, I'll make more income. And I knew that when I had this job at Bank of America, I was a personal banker. So I was the guy that had a cubicle. I would set up people's LLCs, corporations, business accounts, personal accounts. That's how I learned about all those entities and asset protection. And at the time, we used to do, when people used to purchase, refinance, or take out a home equity line of credit for real estate, I was doing that too in-house. So at 20 years, that was the best experience and training that I received in all my years prior combined. And so when this opportunity came where we reached out to a couple Latin dance festivals, and they said, yeah, if you guys come to the festivals and teach, we'll give you a free pass. Nobody knew us. So in exchange to build our brand, we said, yeah, we'll pay our flight. We will pay our hotel. You just give us a ticket and we'll teach at your event. And it got to the point where I remember I was, in community college and I had already missed 3 times. And I remember they said, hey, if you miss a 4th time, you already know the rules. You're going to get withdrawn from the class. And I had this opportunity to go teach in Hawaii. And I was like, man, so I came to this edge of I guess you could call it
fork in the road.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was like, dude, you're either going to let go of this dream to travel the world and do what you love for a living, which is going to be scary because you don't have your income replaced. You don't have any additional income sources. This is so new. Or you actually go for it and you jump and then build an airplane on the way down. But I was already wired to like, man, you know what? With my job, I have to trade my hours for dollars. And there's not a lot of leverage because I'm limited. My ceiling is very low. And so I saw this as an opportunity to really, recreate myself and build a business where I could travel the world teaching dance, what I loved at the time, and make a great living and impact, millions of people's lives. And that's what I did. I had over like 10 million views on YouTube, thousands of videos. They would fly me out to places like Bali, Indonesia, where other instructors would fly there. And I would train, I became one of the pioneers in this dance. And that's really how the transition happened.
Man, that's an excellent story. I mean, and of everything you did, this is something that you were super passionate about. I mean, you were at the top of that particular game, and yet you did it again. You left that industry to do something else. So tell me this time. Now you have experience, right? The first time you were like, I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but I'm going for it. I'm jumping. I'm gonna do this, and you did, and you had some success. The second time, you've built something. This isn't like something was handed to you. You built it and you've created something that's greater and beyond yourself. You were educating other people, teaching other people how to do this thing. And now you're going to venture off into something else. How do you let go? Like, what's going in your mind? What's the mindset that you have to let go of this baby that you created, this entity thing that you've done, that you've spent so much time, sweat, blood, tears, all that stuff, to venture off into something else?
You ask really good questions there, Nan, because that's really where all the nuggets are. One of my favorite quotes is, what got you here won't get you there. So that opportunity got me to a really good place in my life. But good is the enemy of great. There was so much more that I could do with my life and that I could impact people's lives much deeper and much bigger. And letting go of that dance business was very difficult because the first time I didn't really know who I was. There was no identity. The second time I was known as the bachata guy. Even my email was like Jorge Bachata at gmail.com. You go on YouTube and put Jorge Bachata and you'll see like millions of views and thousands of videos all over the world. And so it was very difficult to move on because I identified myself as the bachata guy. So when I started thinking and realizing that I wanted to do something different and I wanted to go to the next level, when I had all these limiting thoughts and limiting beliefs of like, well, who's going to learn real estate from the bachata guy? You're the bachata guy. You're going to teach people how to create financial freedom. Like, how is that even possible? And so I had all these beliefs and all these stories that kept me playing small. And really what happened is I embarked on a 5-month emotional intelligence and self-development training here in LA, where I became aware. The first step in transforming who you are to who you can become is becoming aware of your limiting beliefs. We all have limiting beliefs about money, health, and relationships. And all those limiting beliefs that I had were created from the people that had the most amount of influence on me growing up. And that was like my dad and my mom. And, I look at my mom, and it was funny because I visited my grandma after so many years, a couple years ago, and my grandma's like scared of everything. Like she lives in fear. And now I know why my mom, every time I would travel, she's like, if I didn't text, like if she knew I was arriving at 5 p.m. at LAX, and if it's 5:05, she's crying because she's like, oh my God, are you okay? My mom will not get on a plane. So long story short, scarcity of everything, right? Talk about living in your bubble, staying in your comfort. And then my dad, well, man, that's a whole other story. My dad he had kids with like three women. He was never there for his kids because his dad was murdered when he was 12 years old. So he had a lot of trauma. So he just recreated what he experienced growing up, which is not having a male figure in your life. He was also a drug dealer. He smuggled people across the border. Like I learned a lot of bad things about. Also, my parents never got married, so I didn't believe in marriage. And so I had all these limiting beliefs that were influenced upon me. So when I did that transformational program, I was able to clear so much of that I was like, wow, I've been playing so small my entire life, and I'm ready to just break through. And that really gave me the confidence to really let go of who I had become for who I could become.
Let's drill down on that a second, because I think that's a very vital thing you're talking about when you're identifying those limiting beliefs. And you said something. You said you kind of were able to put them away or put them aside. And correct me if I'm wrong. Those limiting beliefs, it's not that they go away. It's that you've branded them. You've identified that in fact they are limiting beliefs, that they're the obstacles that you need to overcome. Not necessarily that you can or can't. It's that you put those in the way of yourself. Is that right?
Exactly. So when I went into day one of this training, I had a belief, and that belief was who I am is getting in the way of who I want to become. Mm-hmm. And then the trainer said, actually, Jorge, who you have become is getting in the way of who you've always been.
Oh, elaborate on that. That's deep.
Right. So that got really deep. Like every time I say that, like I get like this chills because it was so deep. And I was like, man, you're so right. He said, when you were 3 years old, you had freedom. You didn't have this prerequisite, like, oh, because if I do that, this is going to happen. Therefore, I'm fearful. And there's a lot of scarcity. And what if this, what if that? When you were 3 years old, he said, you didn't give a damn. He said, you went. He said, you never fell and then said, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Like you kept doing it until you walked. If you wanted to do anything, you would just do it and you would express yourself fully. But then what happened for many years is you suppressed your emotions. You suppressed, you lost your voice. You wouldn't voice your opinion. You wouldn't, you became, because of all these things you experienced, you saw certain conversations as conflict and you avoided, and you walked around the bush and you walked on eggshells and all these different things, just being too cautious, overthinking. And so all these limiting beliefs and all these fears from everything, all the traumas, right, that we all experience in our own way growing up, they're the things that hold you back. So usually if people are like, you know what, why would you let go of this business, Jorge? Like you were making over 6 figures, like life was good. It's like, yeah, but there's so much better. Like I'm not just the bachata guy. I am a transformational trainer that can teach, financial literacy and the emotional intelligence and take someone from who they are to who they can become. And so really, when he said that, he said, who you have become is getting in the way of who you've always been. Who you have become is because of all the traumas and the experiences, and not only that, but the stories that you created about those experiences. So for example, I for many years, I had this abandonment issue. So even though my dad passed away from alcohol, he didn't do it on purpose. But to me, I'm this 12-year-old kid who created a story of I'm not worthy, because if the person that I look up to the most just left, why would anybody else care about me? And then I associated commitment and emotions with pain. So when it came to business or personal relationships, if it was getting really good, I would check out, because if I let them get too close, they're going to hurt me. They're going to leave me. So you could just imagine how I would sabotage these great relationships and great people that would come into my life because of those beliefs.
That's deep. That's true. I mean, and we make up the stories in our head. I was thinking about that the other day, because there's events in my life that now with the podcast, I share the story, and I'll show the story and I'll listen to it in replay. And I'm like, well, it wasn't exactly like that. It kind of shifted a little bit, but in my mind, I've told that story so many different times that it becomes what happened. Right. I always tell people, when kids are squabbling, there's always three sides to the story. There's his side, there's her side, and then there's the truth, what actually happened. Right.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, your story becomes your reality. We've met with all kinds of family this last couple of weeks because of the holidays. Right. And so we have this Aunt Rose, she's like 90 something years old. And she's telling a story about how, she used to take care of her mom, and other people are like, well, did she really? Well, who knows? She's 90. You weren't there. Like whatever she's telling you the story is the reality of what the story is, especially for her now. Right. And so what you're describing right now is those limiting beliefs, those things that we tell ourselves, we created them. We made those barriers for ourselves. So how did Jorge decide that I'm going to take this barrier that I created and I'm going to take it down brick by brick, or move around it, or go over it, or go through it? What happened there?
So I realized through analyzing, like, oh, well, why don't you believe in marriage? Why are you scared of commitment? Why is there a scarcity mindset around money? And it was because that's what I was taught growing up, right? Maybe limiting beliefs about money. Like if you get, like my dad would make a lot of money selling drugs, and then he would burn it, like literally burn through it. So it would come in really fast and go out really fast, right? Or sometimes people have a belief that money changes people, but that's not true. Money only makes you more of who you've always been. It just expands who you really are, right? And so realizing that I had these limiting beliefs, I realized that I'm holding myself back from having that marriage or that lifelong partner that I could have if I just work on myself. I always spoke to different people that I guess you could say they would have some type, like a high level of intuition. And they would always tell me the same thing. They said, you're not being compensated what you're worth. Like you're playing really small. Like, I don't really know you, Jorge, but I could tell that you're not making as much money as you should be making. I was like, wow. And like people kept telling me this, that had a high level of intuition. And so I realized that I needed to, personal development and emotional intelligence, it's like an onion that never ends. You just continue to peel back the layers, and it's not a destination, right? It's about the journey. And the more you peel back the layers, the more you can grow, accomplish your vision, and in doing so, change more people's lives. And so, I made the decision to really dive deep into personal development, emotional intelligence, and the mindset work. And I'm sure, obviously you've heard it, right? It's really, success is 90% mindset and just 10% strategy. You could have all the knowledge, read all the books, but if you truly don't believe in yourself, and if you don't believe that it's possible, and more importantly, if you don't take action, then nothing is going to happen. So I just embarked on that journey and went to a lot of different trainings over the years. And now here we are, having this conversation.
Well, then that kind of leads into the real system, right? So, I mean, Jorge, you've gone a long way from having a stable job to burning those ships, and starting your own company, to deciding to walk away to that company, developing yourself as an individual, essentially rebranding, and not just for the external, but the internal, rebranding who you are as an individual, and destroying those limiting beliefs. And now you got this real system. So what's the goal behind the Real System? What are you trying to do now?
Yeah, great question. So two things that I love that I feel are most important to truly be fulfilled in life. And that's emotional intelligence, right? And financial literacy. And that's exactly what the Real System is. One of my coaches one time said, sell them what they want, but give them what they need. So the Real System is an acronym for revenue, education, action, legal. And it's the vehicle and the 4 pillars to teach people how to create an Airbnb empire without owning real estate. So 3 years ago, I got into Airbnb. Currently, we have 13 properties on Airbnb, which is what replaced my 6-figure dance business 3 years ago. And I was able to let go of that. And then a little over a year ago, we replaced my wife's law enforcement career, and she was able to quit her job forever. And we got out of the rat race, right? And that's what it is. It's teaching people how to get out of the rat race, how to replace their 9-to-5 with building a business that one day they could pass on to their families using real estate and Airbnb as the vehicle. And it's all online with like group coaching calls, a Facebook community, and an online course. And that's really the goal of the Real System, is to help people create financial freedom, but also give them the emotional intelligence that's needed so that they're not just successful, but they live a fulfilled life.
And the key to this is it's not something that you're just coaching on. It's something that you live, right? Yeah. It's something that you you have social proof. You have actual proof that it exists. You've done it. You've walked the line. You've stepped in the holes that you didn't want to step in. You've tripped, fallen, stumbled, but you picked yourself up and you keep going. And now you're able to teach people. So you've been fishing. You've taught people to fish, and now you're teaching fishermen to teach other people to be fishermen.
Exactly. And that's one of my focuses is, helping other people how to do that in their industry, in their genre, in their niche, so that, again, teaching other fishermen how to fish, how to teach other fishermen how to fish.
That's beautiful, dude. I mean, and that's a great story. The transition from, having that victimhood mentality that you could have went down early on to using it as fuel instead to guide you through where you are, to developing what you've developed. It's a great story, dude. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing it with me and being open and vulnerable.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said at the beginning, right, being open, authentic, vulnerable, like, this is what you get.
This is what you get. Exactly. Well, share with the listeners if they're interested in working along the same lines on the Airbnb or through coaching themselves. How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so essentially, if anybody out there is interested in building an Airbnb business, or maybe you have an expertise that you want to monetize and you want to learn how to build an online coaching program and add an extra 10 to 30K a month to your bottom line, that's where I come in, and I specialize in helping you create that. Living a life by design and not by default. So you guys can reach out to me on Instagram, the Jorge Contreras, THE Jorge Contreras.
The real last name. You can look up the other one. What was the other one that if they wanted to look up to see your dance routines?
Oh, Jorge Bachata.
Bachata, that's right. So yeah, not that one. That's not what he's doing now. His actual last name is Contreras. So the Jorge Contreras, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, ladies and gents. George, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and sharing your story with us.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Of course, ladies and gents, just a reminder, be ready to work some donations. It's All About the Kids is one of the foundations that we work with. They feed a lot of families here, 450 families in 1 week over the Christmas break, but those families still need help every single week. So if you guys have any contributions, make sure you reach out to them. It's allaboutthekids.org. If maybe you guys have kids in high school who need some community service hours, that's a great place to go. We're also in the insurance business. Pipeline Insurance is our insurance agency. So if you guys need help with any of your insurance needs, or maybe you want to add insurance into your business, help increase your bottom line, hit James up 619-884-0045 or james@csfirst.com. That's all we got for you guys today. Peace, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, George. Have a good one.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye-bye.